Welcome back to the frozen sanctuary of truth, where the air is thin and the reality is jagged. You have spent years believing that your empathy was a bridge, only to find yourself standing on the edge of a bottomless abyss. Today, we perform a clinical autopsy on the predator's final, most guarded somatic failure. The lights are up, the mask is off, and the biological bill has arrived. Imagine walking into a high-security vault only to find that the walls are made of thin, painted glass. That is the narcissist's internal state when they realize their body has finally betrayed the lie they told the world. They aren't basking in the glow of conquest, they are vibrating with a visceral terror. The big haunting question is, what does the ghost do when the vessel begins to rot? You have reached the done phase, that quiet, icy threshold where your tears have dried into a diamond-hard indifference. The narcissist senses this change like a predator senses a shift in the wind. They know their traditional tools of manipulation, the guilt, the rage, the gaslighting, are no longer drawing blood. For the first time, the parasite is facing a total, terminal energy famine. Have you ever noticed that strange, vibrating tension in the air right before the final collapse? You are seeking peace, but you are met with a restless, predatory agitation. The narcissist cannot be still because your silence is a mirror that shows them their own nothingness. They are moving through the room like a caged animal, searching for a weapon to puncture your new, divine armor. The big haunting question we are answering today is this: what is the final, agonizing somatic consequence they face when their recklessness catches up? It isn't just a clinical diagnosis, it is a total collapse of their perceived invincibility. While you are moving toward light, they are descending into a dark, physical prison of their own making. The debt is finally due in full. You've spent years wondering why they turn into a total stranger the moment you demand respect. It isn't just a lack of love, it is parasitic panic. They are offloading their internal toxic waste into your environment to avoid their own reflection. They want to leave you looking broken, but today, we expose the biological scar they can never hide. The predator has been marked by the hunt. This is the secret knowledge the narcissist never wanted you to find. They want you to believe they are the ones who hold the power, that they are the gods of your reality. But the truth is, they are more dependent on your reaction than a junkie is on a needle. Their final somatic affliction is an admission of their own irrelevance. They are empty vessels that have finally, deeply cracked. Imagine the psychological weight of being a person who only exists if someone else is reacting to them. That is the narcissist's internal landscape. When you go silent, their mirror goes dark. They are left alone with the one person they hate more than anyone else, the hollow child. The night is the mirror that refuses to lie, and the narcissist is now drowning in a very physical truth. Stay with me, because we are about to pull back the heavy curtains on the narcissist's final, desperate act. We are going to expose the hidden fears that make their exit a lethal game of physical and psychological warfare. This isn't just a story, it is a clinical breakdown of an unraveling ego. You will never look at their need the same way again. The power is shifting back to you. This first chapter is your sanctuary of clarity. You have been blaming your inadequacy for the coldness in the house, but the coldness is the narcissist's own internal decay. They lost the bet the moment you decided that your peace was more important than their dopamine hit. As we move into the breakdown, remember, their agony is the only honest thing they will ever truly own tonight. Somatic narcissism is a high-stakes game played with stolen energy and borrowed time. For the predator, the body is not a temple, it is a weapon of mass seduction and a vessel for extraction. They treat human souls like disposable batteries, draining the light until the host is empty. But when they move through many lives without boundaries, they are inviting a biological war to their door. Metaphorically, the narcissist is a high-end hologram that requires a constant stream of data from your spirit. You were that data. When you disconnect, the image starts to glitch and tear. By the time the symptoms of their recklessness appear, the projected image of the perfect lover is flickering. You see the gray, petty child hiding in the pixels. This visibility is somatic death. Their hidden motive for the sexual hunt was always internal regulation through distraction. A narcissist cannot regulate their own emotions, they need to offload their shame into a receptacle. If they cannot use you as a source of love, they will use a stranger as a source of friction. But the friction has turned into a burn. They are now holding a biological poison they cannot offload. We must talk about the narcissistic void as a spiritual hunger that eats character. Because they have no internal pilot, they are blown by the winds of external validation. When the control fails, they flatline. This flatline is a psychic death. Their physical affliction is the frantic manifestation of a soul that has spent a lifetime running from the truth. They are finally cornered. Imagine a star that has run out of hydrogen. It begins to contract and collapse under its own gravity. That is the narcissist in the aftermath of their physical infection. They have burned through the supply you provided, and now the void is calling them back. They try to hide the pain because they are trying to outrun the darkness. They are isolated in a cold, decaying, empty universe. Their internal chaos is a static storm of projective identification. In the quiet, they start to project their own self-loathing onto the symptoms they cannot control. This is why they suddenly invent lies or smear your character. They need a distraction from the stinging reality of their own flesh. They need to turn you into the sick one, so they can feel like the victim once again. The narcissist is a somatic junkie who has worn out their reward circuitry. They have spent decades chasing the dopamine of a new conquest, but the law of diminishing returns has kicked in. Their final move is a desperate, low-vibration attempt to hide the marks of their journey. They are anhedonic, incapable of peace, and they are pacing their way to an inevitable biological funeral. In the dark, the narcissist experiences somatic dissociation. They literally lose the ability to feel their own presence without someone else's reaction. Now, the only thing they feel is the sharp, localized pain of their own choices. They need the friction of your anger to distract them from the heat of their infection. Without your reaction, they are left alone with the stinging rot. Deep down, the narcissist finds human vulnerability and truth to be repulsive. It reminds them of their own fragility. They despise you for the very love you once gave them. But in this state of famine and pain, the disgust is splashbacking. They are disgusted by their own face in the mirror. They are drowning in a sea of loathing, and every hand they reach for is a hand they bit. The psychological breakdown reveals an abuser as a closed system running out of entropy. They are cooling down to absolute zero in the absence of your heat. Their biological rot is the end of the motion. As we move into the turning point, you will see what happens when the empath finally switches off the lights for good. You are going to see the power shift from the ghost to the sun. The dramatic turning point arrives in the absolute silence of your indifference. It happens the moment you stop asking where they have been. You stop defending your worth against their wandering eyes. You stop reacting to the strange, physical distance they've maintained. This is the plot twist. They were hiding a shameful secret, but your silence has made that secret an unbearable weight. Watch the narcissists panic when the mirror refuses to reflect their fake health. They are addicts who have just been cut off by their own biological vanity. They will try a hysterical Hoover, crying fake tears and promising change just to see if you will still nurse their wounds. But you are not moving. This stillness is traumatic to the predator. They scent their own irrelevance now. This is the moment of internal sovereign alignment where you realize the special bond was a filter they placed over your eyes. You take the filter off and see the abuser for what they actually are, a small, frightened, empty shell in physical agony. The rot is visible now. You don't feel anger anymore, you feel clinical observation. You are now the scientist, and they are the lab. When rage fails, they pivot to strategic victimhood. They will use their new biological illness to guilt-trip you into returning. They are frantically trying to load the syringe of their shame and inject it into your compassion. But you see the calculation. You recognize the performance. By naming the demon and the disease, you strip its power and walk past the bait with icy resolve. The silence of the empath becomes the acid that accelerates the rot. Without your empathy to heal the wounds they self-inflict, the abuser's internal injuries fester. They start fighting with the doctors, the nurses, and the strangers. They are spiraling into chaos because they cannot exist without a calm center to disturb. You were that anchor, and you have finally cut the rope. They attempt a malignant discard to save the last shred of their ego before the truth comes out. They announce to the world that you are the problem, that you are the one who is unclean. This is a psychological confession of their internal failure. They are projecting their own physical rot onto you. But you are relieved. You accept the discard like a promotion. You watch them walk. Show the shift in the energetic signature of your life. The moment the abuser is gone, the space sanctifies. You strip the bed, you burn the sage, and you open the windows. You realize that their dirty move was a contagion they brought into your temple. Now that the carrier is gone, your vitality returns. You breathe into your center and feel the radiance of your own sovereign spirit. This is a psychological shift. You forgive the vessel for absorbing the rot. You realize your body was just trying to survive a toxic spill. You nurture your own flesh with self-respect. You realize the relationship was a dark initiation that forced you to find your internal sword. You thank the trauma for breaking the mirror and revealing the sovereign. You have finally graduated today. This is the moment of total detachment. You look at the past and you don't feel pain, you feel physics. You see the mechanism of the energy transfer. The abuser is a name you barely remember, a minor malfunction in the great machine of your evolution. The turning point is absolute. You are inhabiting your life with an intensity that is terrifying to the weak. You are finally home. As we move into the collapse, remember, the abuser depends on your reaction to stay three-dimensional. By withdrawing your focus, you have deleted their existence in your universe. They are going to panic. They are going to burn their own world down to get your attention. But you are no longer the firefighter. You are watching the fire from the high ground, safe and sovereign. The collapse of the narcissist is a spectacle of absolute void. When the empath stops absorbing the rot, the abuser's false self shatters from the internal pressure of its own nothingness. They experience narcissistic mortification, the psychic death they've been running from since childhood. You will see them acting out with manic recklessness. Their mask is melting like hot acid. Their social consequences are swift and public. As the recovered empath moves through the world with quiet dignity and icy indifference, the abuser's smear campaign evaporates into the stench of desperation. The truth has its own gravity. People start seeing the pattern of the withered victims the abuser leaves behind. You are the witness who survived the clinical, dark autopsy. The internal panic of the abuser becomes a manic screaming for new supply that no longer exists in your space. They look for you in every face they exploit, but no one can reflect the God image you once gave them. They are starving for the high-grade empathy your sacred energy used to provide, but the pharmacy is permanently closed. They killed the golden goose for dark sport. Watch the harsh truth of their new life. They look old. They look grey. They look brittle. The life force they stole from you has expired, and they have no internal reactor to generate more. They are cursed to repeat the same loop with lesser and lesser souls until they draw their last breath. They are trapped in a body that is closing down, haunted by the memory of your radiant sun. The tone is brutally cold and analytical. The abuser is a parasite that underestimated the resilience of the empath. By moving on spiritually, you have executed the predator. They are the walking dead, carrying the corpse of their own ego. They hate you for surviving their spiritual warfare. Every breath of peace you take is a poison to their delusion. They are collapsing in the dark. Internal panic leads to pathological stalking of your happiness. They analyze your every post, searching for a sign of pain, a sign of return. But they find nothing but strength. This strength is traumatic to the abuser. It debunks their God complex. It proves they are just a glitch in your evolution. They are screaming from the shadows, trying to cast a spell you no longer hear. The social discard concludes with the final isolation. The flying monkeys have woken up. The family has distanced themselves. The abuser is left alone with the ghost of the one they couldn't destroy. This isolation is the mirror they feared their whole life. In the silence, they are forced to hear the echoes of their own lies. They are stroking the air where you used to be, alone. Brutally truthful analysis. The abuser failed because they miscalculated the resilience of the spirit. They thought they could starve the empath, but they only forced the empath to hibernate and evolve. Once you wake up and retain your energy, you are invisible to their manipulation. The narcissist is a shadow that cannot exist in the presence of your internal and solar truth. Intensify the collapse. You watch their disintegration with a sense of sacred justice. You don't feel vengeance, you feel order. You see that the world is actually safe because you are the one who defines your reality. The abuser's rage is a distant noise that no longer reaches your frequency. You are living at a depth they cannot reach. The monster is finally, clinically, dead. As we enter the final truth, look at the ruin of the abuser and realize, you are the winner. The rot was just the shell of your evolution. You have found the key. You have opened the door. You have walked into the world and the world recognized you. The final truth is cinematic, empowering, and saturated with radiance. The collapse is complete. The sunrise is now internal and deep. We have reached the final truth. The narcissist's biological affliction was never about you. It was the final scream of a dying parasite that realized it could no longer feed on your purity. You were simply the mirror reflecting their internal abyss. The night doesn't belong to the predator anymore. It belongs to the soul that has integrated its shadow and found its own light. Emotional closure comes from the absolute knowledge that the abuser never existed as the person you loved. You were in love with a reflection of your own empathy. Today, you have taken the reflection back. You are closing the case file on the predator. You have realized that their hate was a badge of honor. A being of darkness will always hate the sun. You are the sun. Shine. Healing is the cinematic slow burn of presence. It is the feeling of the ground under your feet, the sound of your own voice telling the truth, and the sight of a future that is unwritten and safe. You are reprogramming your nervous system to expect beauty and respect. You are learning that empathy is a superpower, not a sentence. You are finding your soul in the quiet. Empowerment is the quiet strength of the empath who refused to stay defined by the predator. You have seen the bottom of the abyss and you brought back the fire. You are unshakable. The narcissist's screams from the shadows are just background noise in the symphony of your life. You have changed the frequency. You are tuned into the voice of the universe and the earth. You are part of a global awakening of sovereign empaths who are refusing to be supply. We are collective strength. We are spiritually invincible. The narcissist's obsession with your energy was the last stand of a dying parasite. The age of the predator is ending. The age of the authentic is beginning. Your voice is a siren of truth for others who are still shaking in the dark. Imagine the final scene. You are standing on a mountain peak at dawn. The wind is blowing through your spirit, cleansing the last traces of the abuser's shadows. Below you, the dark valley of the narcissistic trap is dissolving in the light of the new day. Above you, the sky is exploding with colors you can finally see. Kimberly. You are whole. You are complete. You are home. Cinematic closing imagery. The abuser is now a distant ghost, stalking the ruins of a life they burnt. They are screaming at the wind, begging the dust to become the host. Kimberly. But the dust stays dust. You are flesh and blood, light and fire, moving at the speed of joy. You have found your tribe. You have found your peace. The spiritual necrosis was just a dark, heavy cocoon. The final truth. Deliverance. The narcissist tried to kill the empath because they were terrified of what would happen if the soul went sovereign. They wanted to keep you as a battery, but the battery exploded into a sun. You are magnificent. You are unstoppable. You have won the game by walking off the field. You have ascended beyond the manipulation. The ghost is clinically dead. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your right to walk the earth with confidence and dignity. The sexual killer, the psychological parasite, and the emotional arsonist have no power here in the presence of your light. Use it to warm your own life. Use it to create beauty. You are a generator of universal light, and the grid is restored. You are the master now. The narcissist's physical affliction is the biological debt they can never repay, but your victory is the radiant health that begins the moment you finally stop being their supply. Walk into your future with the fire of the chosen, because the predator has finally run out of time and you have just begun to live. The act is over, the mask is shattered, and you are finally free.